Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video on my channel, Hairliciously. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you guys are updated on hair loss and hair transplant topics. Visit my website at hairliciously.com to purchase your microneedling devices, which are scientifically proven to stimulate hair growth. My low-level laser therapy cap, hair growth vitamins, Dht blocking shampoo and serum, and a few other products for those who are suffering from hair loss. So in today's video, I want to share with you a guy who happened to experience a very aggressive form of hair loss, and he ended up losing, unfortunately, the majority of his hair all within a span of just 2 years. He claims to have had a full head of hair similar to that of Justin Bieber's old hairstyle, and is now just left with hair only on the sides and the back of his head. So here are some photos of him at age 23, and you can see the severity of genetic hair loss that has taken place. There's a lot of diffuse staining to the crown and mid-scalp. His hairline is just non-existent, and this guy is well on his way to a Norwood 7 real soon. His donor supply also looks very weak, so he most likely would be turned away from most, if not all, hair transplant clinics. And aside from his aggressive hair loss, his other concern is the intense scalp itching he experiences, and says that he's tried all sorts of shampoos and treatments in attempts to stop the itching, but he hasn't been able to find a solution that works. A majority of the hair apparently would fall out after the itching. And one thing to note here is that a lot of people who are experiencing androgenic alopecia also seem to be experiencing the same condition, scalp itchiness, and this turns out to be a pretty common phenomenon. And personally speaking, I also noticed this on areas when I was miniaturizing, especially before when I was on treatment, the temple areas where most of my recessions were prior to my hair transplant. So some might actually call it the Dht itch, and this actually happens because sebum production from the sebaceous glands in the hair follicles is surprisingly controlled by and triggered by DHT. So higher levels of DHT, increased sensitivity of the sebaceous glands is what is likely causing the scalp to itch due to the excess sebum production, lead things to like dandruff and other scalp conditions. If you guys do a quick search on Google, you will also see a lot of people who are not on finasteride or dutasteride who are also experiencing scalp itchiness on areas that are miniaturizing, such as, you know, the temples and the vertex. And this seems to support the theory that miniaturization on the scalp are afflicted with a sensitivity to higher proportions of DHT and also other androgens. So the two are actually going to go hand in hand together. A lot of people actually find a lot of scalp itchiness relief once they start taking 5-alpha reductase inhibitors like finasteride or dutasteride, because it inhibits the conversion of testosterone into DHT. So there's less DHT to drive the sebum production, and I would assume something more potent like dutasteride would be more beneficial in treating scalp itchiness as it inhibits more DHT than finasteride. It might also be helpful to use ketoconazole shampoo, which is an antifungal agent, because a lot of the itchiness can come from things like seborrheic dermatitis due to excess sebum. And there are some studies, although it's up for debate, that support the idea that ketoconazole shampoo has anti-androgenic properties. So it's worth using, especially considering that, you know, ketoconazole does not actually have much of any side effects for most people. Anyway, the guy in the post states that he is not taking finasteride because he does not want to take medication and put drugs in his body. And I think this is exactly where he pretty much screwed up. Had he taken finasteride or dutasteride or some anti-androgen early on, he wouldn't be suffering from hair loss. He would also be able to improve the itchiness on his scalp over the years through DHT inhibition. He could have also slowed down further hair loss and not end up to where he is right now. He says that he did start noticing the first signs of hair loss in his senior year of high school, and I'm sure that, you know, it wasn't as severe back then as it was years later to where he is right now. So he basically did nothing about his hair loss for the past 5 years on the first onset of miniaturization, and then when he started noticing accelerated hair loss at the age of 21, and lost all of it by the age of 23 in just, 2 years, he still wasn't doing anything about it. And I think what many guys fail to realize is that when you start seeing the first signs of miniaturization, it's actually not that you suddenly start experiencing hair loss, but rather it's been this cumulative progression of miniaturization that's been ongoing for years and years. And until you lose about 50% of the original density, you're really not going to be noticing any hair loss. Obviously, a lot of different factors that cause the rate of hair loss, especially when you see people like this guy who suddenly experienced, significant hair loss in his, early 20s and near bald by 23, while you have other people who are well into their 40s and 50s and just start seeing progression of hair loss. It all depends on the various genetic factors that influence hair loss, as well as the androgens. and particularly the types of androgens and your level of sensitivity to the androgens produced in the body. Honestly speaking, at this point, I think it's gonna be difficult for this guy to regrow back his hair, only because he's lost so much at an early age, and the fact that he's been experiencing an aggressive form of hair loss. But that's not to say that it's impossible, because I've seen a few hyper responders to combination therapy with 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, things like Minoxidil, microneedling, and other treatments were able to incredibly reverse hair loss. I think in his case, it might be worth a try if he wants to try to get back his hair back, since he has nothing to lose, no pun intended. And if it doesn't work out for him, he can also resort back to shaving his head, which a lot of people I think would probably recommend in his case, or maybe getting something like scalp micropigmentation to create an illusion of a buzz cut, or even wearing a hairpiece. But if he's unwilling to be on hair loss treatment, he's really limited in terms of options and would have to stick with the set treatments. Now, I do also have to mention that some people who are also experiencing aggressive genetic hair loss, and even just regular normal progression of hair loss, just like you and most people, may not respond favorably to finasteride or dutasteride, because they don't wipe away 100% of scalp or serum DHT levels. And even for somebody with aggressive hair loss who is, let's say, on 0.5 milligram of dutasteride, that can inhibit over 50% scalp DHT and like 98-99% of serum DHT, can still continue to lose hair with just a small percentage of scalp DHT levels circulating. Most people also don't realize that by taking a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, you're also going to be increasing the levels of scalp and serum testosterone levels in the body. So you have to realize that DHT isn't the only culprit as far as androgens are concerned that can lead to hair miniaturization. Testosterone can also cause hair loss, just not to the same extent as DHT. There are people who experience hair loss with just an increase in testosterone, and just once they completely wipe out their DHT levels, especially if you have a high enough sensitivity to testosterone. And this explains why some people are considered to be non-responders to finasteride and dutasteride. So all in all, I think the main point from this video that I wanted to come across by showing you a photo of this guy with extremely aggressive hair loss is that prevention is always going to be key. The guy obviously wasn't on hair loss treatment, and despite him seeing the initial stages of miniaturization in his senior year of high school, he still refused to get treatment and let his hair run its course with androgenic alopecia. Once you get to the point where hair loss has progressed for years and years, and you have fibrosis and calcification that has built up in the hair follicles, it's just going to be an uphill battle that's really difficult to reverse. That's all I have for today, guys. Hope this video has been interesting and educational. Get on treatment if you guys are losing hair, and if you really want to be proactive about further hair loss. Ultimately, it's going to be up to each individual on how far that they're willing to go to save their hair. So make sure to do your due diligence in research, weigh the pros and cons, since medication is always going to come with side effects. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Take care.